Welcome everyone to the Sober Saturday Reset call. This is your live coaching call every single Saturday. I hope that you guys are all doing well. I hope that you guys are, living your life and, doing the things you need to do to live a happy, healthy, sober life. Today, I just wanted to jump on, see if anyone had any questions or if someone wanted to share their wins or their sober moments that they had this week and kind of go from there. And maybe I can tell a little bit about my story and let you guys know that you guys can do this because I believe in you. Because 7 years ago, 2018, I was trying to be the world champion of public speaking. I was out there with speaking. I was telling people to live their lives with passion, set some goals. I was telling people that you can improve your life. You can do this. You can do the things that you need to do to get to where you want to go in life. Live with passion, purpose, all these things. And I was secretly drinking every single night after my day job. I would go to the liquor store and I would grab some vodka, some beer, and I would head home and drink with my wife every single night. And it became a daily issue for me. And, it was one of those things that I just didn't want to do anymore. I was caught in that Groundhog Day, that cycle of, you have the trigger, which for me was getting off work, right? And have that trigger of, I have that craving. I need alcohol. I need to relieve this anxiety, the stress I'm having. So I went to the liquor store. I'd grab that and then I would have the short-term reward of, that little bit of anxiety relief, that little bit of connection with my wife. And then I would have the long-term cost of the next day not being able to wake up properly, holding me back. And I was high functioning. So, these long-term costs don't actually show up a lot for right away for people who are out there living their lives, highly functioning, going to work, building a career, being an entrepreneur, those kinds of things. It's really, really dangerous for us especially because we live our lives with so much passion and purpose and that these little alcohol doesn't even stop us from getting to where we want to go. And it's grit, it's grind, it's the thing we do every single day. And I know waking up and just my feet hitting the floor and that shame guilt cycle popping into my head, I just had to push that aside and I had to carry on with my life. And I did that so many times that those long-term costs, even though long-term costs are there, they don't show up right away. It's just almost like the opposite of when you build tiny habits and they kind of build up underneath and you go through all these things when you're building a new habit or building your career, right? You're out there, you're working without applause, you're working for, you're working behind the scenes, you're starting out, right? And just like in your business or anything, it kind of grows underneath beneath the surface, and that's kind of how the long-term costs of alcohol work too. They go beneath the surface of your life, and eventually, those things explode. And for me, my explosion moment was I didn't hit rock bottom. I still had money in the bank. I still had a beautiful wife, two kids. I had a decent job. I was working on my speaking career. But the one thing that really shook me was that I was just sitting there and I was thinking about, quitting drinking and I tried to force myself to see all these people that were, have end stage alcoholism and all this stuff. And I just had a thought that, maybe you should quit drinking. And the thought came back to me, well, maybe you should just end your life. And, um, for me, that was just the end of it because I was not like that. I didn't want to do that. I had so much to live for, and I just thought I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. Something had to change, and like Tony Robbins says, a breakthrough can happen in a moment. And that breakthrough for me was I need to do whatever it takes. I need to actually take this seriously and stop, right? Because I was a daily drinker. I was really close to becoming physically dependent and I needed to stop. I needed to get this out of my life. It was holding me back. I knew that if I continued, something bad was going to happen. And when I went out to change, you ask around, you look on the internet, you look on Google, you search things up, and what I found was AA or rehab, and those seem like the only two options. And I know those might seem like the only two options for you as well. And the crazy thing is, most people aren't actually alcoholics. Alcohol use disorder is very rare, and these people are. If you're physically dependent on alcohol, that sucks. That's something that where I was almost there too. You can change, but you need to have a medical detox. You have to do certain things. things. But an actual alcoholic is different than a problem drinker or a gray area drinker or a sober curious person. And that was one of the things that really changed my life too, is just understanding that, okay, well, maybe I'm just a problem drinker, right? And if problems are there, then they can be fixed. And I searched around and I thought, okay, if I'm just a problem drinker, what is wrong? What is going on here? And I started reading about habits, and I started looking into personal development, reading books like Atomic Habits. Great book. Go out and get it. It's an awesome book. Works for anything, especially your alcohol-free life. And I was started reading these books, and I realized that maybe it's just a habit. Maybe I'm stuck in this habit loop. Maybe I can change that. And that was the instant where I realized, yes, it is just a habit. It is addictive. There's an addictive layer to alcohol, of course. Everybody has different kinds of brains, and there's addiction. There's a space to say yes, there is an addictive side to it, but there's also a side where it's just a habit. So. Once I started to realize that I can change that habit, I can move forward. I started to look into this and started to implement things in my life like meditation, exercise, daily connection. These six sober habits, I built these over time, and I started putting those into my life. And I also started to see myself as James Clear says in his book, you have to change an identity level. And I started to see myself as a sober person who doesn't drink anymore. And that really changed a lot of things too, because with our identity, that's why I didn't like AA, because these identity, these labels are so bad for people that are just starting out, especially people who don't really have, are not really an alcoholic. And you label yourself that, and then you get stuck like that, and you continue to have this identity of I'm alcoholic. I'm powerless over this. You're not powerless. You can change, and you can change by using habits and working towards better things and putting better things in your life than alcohol. So I did all this stuff, and I was mixing personal development and the things I'm learning in my personal development books and my alcohol-free lifestyle, and it started working, right? And I was watching YouTube videos. I can't remember what his name is, but anyways, it was in one channel that I specifically watched every single day, and I started to learn more about alcohol and my mindset, and I started to improve that, and I never looked back. And I started to see alcohol as a poison, started to break down those limiting beliefs that I had around alcohol, that alcohol was a solution to the things in my life. I started to realize that there's two versions of me, a drunk version, a sober version, right? And I started to move forward, and that was 7 years ago. Now my life, I don't want to have a drink ever in my life because it's not something I want to do. Alcohol is a poison. It's the same stuff you put in your gas tank of your car. So why would I be drinking it, right? There's better things I can do to relieve my stress, to relieve my anxiety, to relieve the things that I need to do in my life. And yes, it's gonna take some time to get to where you want to go, but that's okay because the short term discomfort, the short term pain is gonna give you long term pleasure in the end, right? So this discomfort you might be feeling this week with cravings, and maybe you are feeling a little bit of a side effects of getting rid of alcohol, or maybe you have to deal with the stress in your life now without numbing out. Though that little short-term discomfort is going to bring you long-term pleasure in the end, and it's not going to be easy. For me, it wasn't easy either. I There was barbecues that I had to go to. There was social events I had to go around. Alcohol is going to be there, and that's the one thing also that I really point out is you cannot escape, you cannot avoid alcohol. If the whole mission of your life is to quit drinking and avoid alcohol and just hide from it, then you're never going to get anywhere. You have to go out there, and you have to, when you're ready, you have to go out there and put yourself out there in these social events, put yourself out there in these things, and have that powerful mindset of I don't drink anymore, and have plans in place and systems in place to get you to where you want to go. And the more you get out there and live your life, the better, the more you're going to be able to be around people with alcohol, the more you solidify your non-drinker identity or that sober identity. You're going to be able to get out there and do the things you need to do. Because listen, we're business people, we're entrepreneurs, we're speakers, we're coaches, we're high performers. We can't just hide from alcohol. It's going to be there everywhere. You go to maybe you go to a personal development event, and there's a bar there with a networking event. You're going to be around alcohol. It's going to be there, and you have to really really change yourself at an identity level. Because if you just quit drinking, right, you're going to have this void in your life, and you're going to be missing out. You're not going to see that alcohol isn't the solution, and you're just going to carry on and move forward with just continuing this Groundhog Day cycle. But if you're able to change the identity level, become a non-drinker, become that sober person of you, become that sober version of you that no longer needs alcohol, you won't even be hanging out in the places where there's alcohol unless you need to, like a social event or a barbecue. But other than that, you're not going to be wanting to hang out with those people. You're going to level up, and that's going to give you an edge in your life. And let's be honest with each other here. If you're not, if you're out there drinking even a little bit and that you lose that little bit of edge in this competitive environment out in the world, you're not gonna win in life. You're not gonna be able to get out there. You have to be able to wake up with clarity. You have to be able to wake up with a vision. And if you can't do that, and alcohol stealing that from me, it's stealing your edge. And that's what I call the edge tax, right? The edge tax is it's taking your edge. It's taxing you on that, right? You might feel, it's like getting an Insta loan, right? You get one of these payday loans. Yeah, sure, your financial stress is relief for the moment, but you're gonna have to pay that interest. You're gonna have to pay that tax every single day, until it's paid off. And then, you're not gonna be able to do it. And you're gonna have to take out another loan, right? And you're gonna have, and that edge, that loan, that tax, that's getting put onto you is slowly building up underneath, and eventually there's going to be a point where you say, I can't do this anymore, and it's just going to explode, and you're not going to be able to see it coming, and it's just going to happen instantly one day. It doesn't happen. These long-term costs don't always happen all right away, right? They're built up underneath. Your relationship is doesn't just die in a day, right? Your relationship with your kids doesn't just die in a day. Your relationship with yourself doesn't just die in a day, but it's those slowly that time where you set a goal and you don't achieve it, or you don't try, or you're stuck in this Groundhog Day cycle. Those things are going to slowly eat away, at the things in your life, and then eventually, it's gonna implode. And I don't want you guys to get there. I don't want you guys to be physically dependent on alcohol. I don't want you guys to have relationships that are breaking down. I don't want you guys to have that. I know there's so much more out there for you guys, and I know there was so much out there for me. So. Back to my story though, the beginning, yeah, there's gonna be tough times. There's gonna be events I had to go to, but every single time I went out there and did it, I was able to win, and I was able to track those, and I was able to look back at it and say, okay, look, damn, that worked. Let's do it. And if it doesn't work and you have a failure, I was able to look at that objectively and carry on and move forward. And I haven't had a drink in 7 years, and I think it's because I don't see alcohol as something in my life that I need. And I was able to build that confidence and build that that alcohol-free advantage one day at a time, with habits and with resetting my mindset, rewiring my mindset, and then reclaiming my life, and then starting to rebuild it. Because look, we can just get rid of alcohol, but your life is still there, right? So you need to start rebuilding that life. And it's not about recovery. I mean, people in recovery, awesome, that's cool. But I think of it more as an upgrade, right? I'm not in recovery. I'm not sick. I'm not diseased. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm upgrading my life, and there's nothing wrong with upgrading your life. If anybody tells you you shouldn't upgrade your life, or you should keep alcohol in your life, then ask yourself why. Why should I keep alcohol in my life? And if it gives me nothing in return, alcohol gives you nothing in return. It might give you that little short-term pleasure, but that short-term pleasure is not worth, that short-term reward is not worth, the edge tax that you're gonna have to pay, right? Because you get that little short-term pleasure, cool, but all the interest and that tax that you have to pay on that the next day, that builds up underneath the scenes, is not worth what you're gonna do, right? This long-term pain is not worth it. That your relationship breaking down is not worth it. Worth that little bit of pleasure that you're gonna get. You have to put better things in place to get that little bit of dopamine or pleasure or whatever you're seeking, right? There's meditation to relieve your stress. You could use that, connection, daily connection, journaling, exercise. These are the things that you should be working on to get into a routine so that you can do that. And that's why I created the six sober habits and the sober and six morning routine. All these things are there to help you realize that you don't need alcohol in your life, and you can move forward without it. So definitely super important. But back to my story now. Today, 7 years I've been able to buy a house. Me and my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time for a very long time. We actually got married, and we have two beautiful children. And my life isn't perfect, obviously. There's still problems, but I don't need alcohol in my life anymore. And if I had alcohol in my life, I don't think my life would be going as well as it is now. I'm able to build this business. I'm able to speak and help people, and it's just an amazing experience, and I would not change it for anything in the world. And I really want that for you guys as well. So hopefully, my story inspires you, and hopefully, I see you guys out there sharing your story one day, because you actually were able to break free from the cycle, eliminate that need to drink, and get you to where you want to go. So, I know this video isn't very this meeting today isn't very tactical. We don't have a lot of tools and things practical things you can use. But I just want to reiterate. I just want to really reiterate that I was a problem drinker for 18 years. I started drinking at the age of 12, and I was able to quit for good at age of 33, and I never looked back. And And there were so many attempts to change. I've probably had hundreds of different times. I said, I'm never drinking again. You have those hangovers, it's really bad hangovers. Mostly it was coolers for me. But anyways, right, you'd have those really bad hangovers. You'd wake up and you'd be like, oh, I'm never doing this again ever. And, by the end of the day or the next day or whenever that trigger happened, you were just back in that groundhog loop because you didn't change anything. And I want you guys to change things and put habits in place and use these visualizations and these meditations and these tools we're giving you, because nothing changes unless you start to work on it and you start to change. And even if you have a failure, it's not about a failure, it's progress, right? As long as you're moving forward, who cares, right? And find a path that works for you. If my program doesn't work for you, if the Sober Morning Reset doesn't work for you, great, go find something else that's going to work. But keep on trying, keep on going, and live a life that you can succeed at, and be passionate and have that alcohol-free advantage in life, because it's really going to be important, especially in the world today where everything's so competitive with AI. And we have to be out there on our best, because to win today is going to be a lot harder than it was, a lot easier and a lot harder than it used to be. So anyways, guys, thank you for joining the meeting. If you guys have any questions, we can go through those now. All right, no questions, no comments. Then we're gonna just end this Saturday reset call. We'll be on here next week's at 7:30 with the reset call, and hopefully we can get you to where you want to go. Have a healthy, happy, sober life, guys. See you guys on the sober side. It's so much better over here. I'll see you guys in the next call next week.